Hey, Market Chameleons. Thanks for joining us on today's pre-market show. How are you doing this morning, D?
Good, thank you. Well, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Let's, I guess, get started. Will, do you want to just put up the
before I
disclaimer
share
real
the
quick?
disclaimer, if your screen's a little fuzzy, I sent out a link. You can join us on our Zoom, which is pushing through to the YouTube Live. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Very helpful to Market Chameleon. And give us some thumbs up. That's always nice. With that, D, we'll share the disclaimer. How about that?
Yep. So everybody, before we start, keep in mind, Will and I, Market Chameleon, we're not registered investment advisors. We're not broker dealer. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing ideas. If you need professional help, then seek out a registered investment advisor or call your broker. They should be able to help you with your questions. There's the disclaimer, everyone. With that.
Nice. What are you seeing this morning, D?
All right, let me just share my screen. Let me know if you see that pre-market screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so as usual, let's take a look at what's moving in pre-market hours. Then we'll take a look at what's coming up on the earnings front. Take a look at what the options are expecting. Maybe we'll take a look at any unusual open interests gains on the day, and if we have time, we'll look at some bullish option setups, and of course, we'll answer as many questions as we can before the opening bell. Having said that, this is the pre-market report. These are stocks that are actively trading in the pre-market. We got the most active stocks, largest percentage gainers, largest percentage decliners. Before we go into a deeper analysis, let's just take a look at any high cap stocks that are moving in the pre-market. So I'm filtering out anything over 50 billion. Here we see actually over 50 billion, we see gainers, nothing in the decliners list right now. So that's at least positive at the open. Tesla, that's up 3.9%. That continues its rally. I think that's making a new 52-week high right at the open. GOLD, that was in the news yesterday, up 3.8% with Warren Buffett, I think, taking a stake. Is that right, Will?
That is correct, D.
Yep.
Actually, with that Tesla move, Elon Musk actually catapults ahead of Zuckerberg in wealthiest entrepreneurs.
Yeah, they're like all neck and neck now. Every day you see those positions are changing.
It's a wonderful horse race, that's for sure.
Yep. And then a couple of them we see with that little E earnings. Walmart, that came out with earnings today before the market opened. SE, Home Depot, that's up 0.9% in the pre-market. JD on earnings up 1.5%. So that's in a high cap stocks. What's going on in the morning? Let's come back to the unfiltered version of the pre-market and look at the top gainers. And I just start out with the ones up on the top of the list. That MICT, that's up 98.9% in the pre-market hours, 2.1 million shares trading hands. There's some news on it, receiving some, I'm just looking at some order for Smart Cam. IMBI up 27% on almost 1 million shares in the pre-market. Looks like that reported earnings. Let's take a look at this MICT and see what's going on in the pre-market hours. So I clicked here. Here we see that stock. It's in the computer hardware business. Closed at $3.50 yesterday. Right now it's trading $7 in the pre-market session. That's up 100%. We see the range in pre-market 350 to 984, very volatile. We see it's a small cap stock. It's trading 2.1 million shares in the pre-market. That's compared to a 7.4 million float. Here we see longest VWAP bar right now trading between $6.99, $7.49 on almost 800,000 shares. Here's what the pre-market chart looks like. In the morning, had a really big pop, kind of coming back in a little bit, but still up a lot in that pre-market hours. Here's the catalyst news events here, so you guys could go in and read it. I'm not going to read the news. I'm just going to analyze it from price action analysis. So here, let's take a look at what the stock tended to do when it had really big gap openings in the morning. What did it do the rest of the day? I'm going up to the gap history report here. This is over here. We see in the last three years, the 12 biggest gap moves. Here are the dates on the left-hand side. These are the gap moves over here. And let's take a look at what happened afterwards. So on average, the last 12 gap moves is 38.1%.
Joining us on YouTube.
Will, I'm hearing some.
Yeah, hold on. On.
Let's go.
Right, I'm starting the broadcast now. We're just on YouTube right now. All right. Sorry about that. That was kicked off. I don't know why. That was from last night's webinar. If no one saw it, it was a great one on puts, D.
Oh, okay. Cool. So we see the average 38.1% of the last 12 gap moves. We see a high one here of 162% on December 21st, 2008. There was a press release here on that date. So here up 100%, that's on the very high end, but we've seen as high as 162%. This is what tended to happen after a high gap move. So from the open to the high of the day, on average, it gained 6.3%. We see 58% of the time it went higher than the open. The rest, as you can see here, these zeros means that opening print was the high of the day. After that, it just went lower. From the open to the low of the day, the average move was negative 14.3%. From the opening to that close of the day, we see it tended to drift lower more often than higher. 75% of the time, it finished lower from the opening price, 25% higher, for an average loss of 5.4%. Here we see that the absolute move in either direction from the open to the high was 8.9%, with a high move of 23.2% from the open. So that's the volatility after the open. So it could move, still have significant moves after the opening bell. That's really quickly. And MICT. Here I noticed also code just caught my eye because Kodak was one of these high flyers. That's down 6.2%. In the pre-market hours, so that's coming back all the way down. What did that get up to? Well, do you remember? Like
Kodak, I want to say in an intraday real monster pop, I think it got up to 60.
Oh, really? Yeah. So actually, you know what? I could just pop it open just to see what that high was. So yep, 60 was the high. So coming all the way back down. And let's do. You want to do one more? Are there any questions for the pre-market hours? Because I could go to the earnings and leave some time because I was going to do at least like 4 reports today.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people were asking about, and both of them have to do with earnings, but Home Depot and Walmart both reported, and there's a lot of chat about that. So if you want to look at either of those, there is some interest.
All right, so let's take a look at what had earnings today. So here's Walmart. Now it's down 0.6. So let's take a look at Walmart over here. So here's Walmart in the pre-market hours. It's down 0.5% on 3.7 million shares. Let's take a look at its historical behavior around earnings. So this is in the last 12 quarters. This is what it did after reporting earnings. So we see that it opened higher 75% of the time, lower 17% of the time. Historically, after reporting earnings, average gain of 1.3%. From the open to the high of the day, the average move was 2.1%. From the open to the low of the day, average move was 1.5%. 58% of the time, it drifted lower from that opening price, 33% higher for an average loss of 0.2%. Coming out of earnings, we see 1 day, 2 day, 3 day tended to be somewhat weaker. So we see next day, 83% of the time, it was lower versus 17% higher for an average loss of 1.2%. Going out, 2 day, 3 day, it seems like that kind of tended to be the trend. 2 weeks out, 83% of the time, it was lower, 17% higher for an average loss of 2.2%. So that is the perspective of Walmart. And I thought that the news was actually pretty positive, right, for Walmart. Well,
yeah, I mean, positive. It seemed like it was off the charts. They doubled online sales last quarter. So
yeah.
everyone staying at home was super beneficial to Walmart.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, we still have some time before the open, so it could firm up, but it's not down that much, 0.5%, and that's yesterday gained 2.3% prior to the earnings. And we see here that it tended to do well going into earnings. So this is 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 days, 2 days, 1 day before earnings. So we see on average all positive gains. Coming out of earnings, maybe that's when people started taking profits. So we see weaker stronger going into earnings than coming out of earnings. So that's been its historical pattern around earnings. Again, had some really good news. Did you say another one somebody wanted to look at?
People were asking about a Home Depot, another retailer that I don't know. Every time I go into either Lowe's or Home Depot to try to buy some building supplies,
right.
To do
Yeah, so Home Depot, Home
crazy.
Depot has been, so here's Home Depot. They beat, so that's the earnings. Let's see. Today it's up 0.8% in a pre-market hours. Here's its range, 289.13 to 98.50 in a pre-market hour. Let me just take a look at that. So we see here it kind of popped up and then started to drift lower as we're heading closer to the opening price. Longest VWAP bar here, 292.49 to 293.13, 67,000 shares, 230,000 shares trading in pre-market. Let's see how that stock looked historically. So we see here 64% of the time it opened lower, 36% of the time it opened higher, on average a 0.5% loss. From the open to the high, average gain was 1.4%. From the open to the low, average decline was negative 1.7%. By the end of the day, from the opening price to the closing price, 55% of the time it was lower, 45% higher for negative 0.1%. So kind of 50-50 on that front. So that's really quickly what Home Depot looked like from an earnings perspective. And let's see its volatility. I'm just looking at from the open to the close, average move up or down 1.8% in either direction. High move was 3.7%. So there you have on the Home Depot that reported. Was that the last one? If it is,
well, someone wanted to know about Lowe's too. I don't know if you want to take a quick look at Lowe's, which is another.
Did Lowe's report today, or is that still due to report?
Good question.
I'll take a look at the. So let's go. I think we'll take a look on this next report. So these are upcoming earnings. So stocks that are expected to report earnings coming out in the next 2 weeks. So I'm going to go here, full report next 2 weeks. Let's look for stocks that trade options on average 10,000 contracts and more per day. So here, we see Walmart reported today, KSS Target, that's tomorrow before the market open. Low, that's also tomorrow before the market open. So let's take a look at here. Target, tomorrow before the market open, that right now, that's expecting a move of 6% in either direction. That's coming from the options straddle, buying a put, buying a call at the money in either direction. So that compares to a 4-quarter average move of 10.1% in either direction and a 12-quarter average move of 7.5% in either direction. So we see here that even the 6%, but that is somewhat underestimated versus the historical averages. That's 4.1% below the 4-quarter average, 1.5% below the 12-quarter average. High move in the last 12 quarters was 20.4%. Low, that's also tomorrow after the market close. Similarly, that's expecting a 6% move in either direction. That compares to an average 4-quarter average move of 4.7% and a 12-quarter average move up 5.5% with a high move of 11.8%. Here we talked about Nvidia. Somebody was asking about that the other day. That's expected tomorrow after the market close. As of yesterday's closing prices, the straddle was pricing in a 6.7% move in either direction. That compares to a historical 4-quarter average move of 5%. So we see that's 1.8% higher than the 4-quarter average, and a 12-quarter average move of 5.6%. That's 1.1%. The 12-quarter average move. High move on that last 12 quarters, 18.8%. And Alibaba, actually, that's coming out August 20th. And right as of yesterday's close, straddle was pricing at 5.3% move. That compares to a 4-quarter average move of 2.7%, 12-quarter average move of 3.1%, with a high move on that of 6.3% in the last 12 quarters. That's Alibaba, how that straddle is looking. So do you have any questions on earning? Do they want to get any deeper into anybody?
Well, they didn't have a question on earnings. There was a question about charting a specific options price, but Jake actually got to it, which was very helpful. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you, Jake. Yeah, Jake really knows how to use the system.
Yeah, I forgot to tell you, but we've got a potential show with Jake. Jake's said he's committed to doing a show with us, which would be great.
Yeah, that would be great. He always has a good perspective.
He does.
And he's looking at the markets, I think, even more than I do at this point. So, but all right. So if not, I mean, I could do what was the quite low. Somebody wanted to take a look at lows before.
Yeah, they wanted to go dig deep into the earnings of lows.
So let's just take a look at lows real quick. Then I'm going to go to the open interest analysis. So this is lows from a historical perspective. How did the stock tend to do versus the anticipated move by the options market? So we see here the options, they overestimated the move 58% of the time in the last 12 quarters. The average implied move based on the option prices was 5.6%. The average actual move was 5.5%. So really close. That's almost like right on 0.1% differential. Here we have, this one's coming up tomorrow, August 19th. But here, these bars, that's the anticipated move up or down in either direction. These red bars, that's the actual move to the downside. The green bar would be the actual move to the upside. So the one I'm hovering over, August 21st, we see that the actual move was 10.4% after earnings were released. That's compared to the straddle implying a move of 6.1% in either direction. So you see that busted right through. Here's how the options performed in the last 12 quarters. Long straddle, buying a call, buying a put at the money, day before, getting out the day after at the end of the day. 42% of the time it was a winner for an average gain of 6%. Long strangle, that was a winner only 33% of the time, but the average gain was 20% anyway, because you see some of these moves were very big. Like right here, I'm hovering over May 22nd. The move, it was implying to move 4.7%. The actual move was 11.8%. So more than twice what was anticipated, but we also get very small moves here as well. Credit iron butterfly, that was a winner 50% of the time for an average gain of 20%. Credit iron condor, that was a winner 67% of the time, average loss of -3%. Let's take a look at what the implied volatility did. So this is looking at the implied volatility of the options that are 30 days trading days to maturity. So 30-day constant maturity. Okay, not the near-term options, but 30 days to expiration. So here we go. The average implied volatility crush in lows after earnings is 25%. Day before earnings, the average implied volatility is 33.3. Day after is 24.9. 5 days later, that on average, the implied volatility is 23.1. So kind of continued to decline there. Here's how it looks today, 36.3 as of yesterday. 2 days before, the average is 33. 2 days before with a high of 46, low of 25.8. So that's how the implied volatilities are lining up. And of course, those are people who trade, important for anybody looking at calendar spreads and trying to buy the from month, sell the out month, or the other way around. That could become very useful. Because we're running up against time, let me go now to the open interest, Will. Unless you have any specific questions, stop me. I'm going to go to the open interest. Then I think you mentioned General Motors. I'm going to try to get to that as well, because some people were talking about General Motors in the morning.
Yeah, a lot of chit chat on General Motors.
Yeah, so I see here I'm on the open interest, and General Motors popped up right away with open interest coming up, in a lot of these 30 calls. But I'll go over specifically to General Motors after this. Let's look at any option contracts that looked interesting from yesterday. So I'm going to let's look for open interest where the open interest on a particular line decreased by more than 1,000 contracts. Let's take a look at something that the open interest increase is at least 20% of the average daily volume, the total average daily volume in that option. I'm going to take a look at the call options for now. Let's look for call options that are priced at least 25 cents, because I don't want to look at those that are like a penny or 2 pennies. Let's say at least 25 cents. Let's look at the option price yesterday, also increased by at least 10 cents. And let's look for options where the implied volatility increased by at least 10%. So the call option increased, and the implied volatility increased, and the open interest increased on this stock. And you know what, let's do a stock price of at least, I don't know, let's do above 10 bucks.
Sure.
I think that's good. All right, so here we go. I narrowed it down to 10, top 10 ones. So here, AAP stock is $161. It was up 1.5% yesterday. The September 160 call, so that's like at the money, basically. September 18th, 160 call. That option closed at $9.40. That's the mid market. That was up $1.90 on a day. Implied volatility was up 10.7%. The open interest increased 1,600 contracts on the day. So just on that option alone, 1,600 contracts. That compares to average daily volume of 1,983 contracts total. That's why we got the long buildup indicator here. Let's see what this stock does, what it's doing right now. I'm just going to open this up. So, all right, up 5.9% in the pre-market. Looks like it has news right now. So it does have some news here, up 5.9% in the pre-market hours. Sorry, what is it? Specialty realtor.
They're an auto parts retailer. So people who are DIYing it at home and doing work on their cars, that's where they go to get their goods.
Okay, awesome. So that's on that call. ALLT, that was up 5.5% yesterday, $12.13. September 18th, 12.5 calls. So close to at the money, a little bit above the at the money. That option closed 68 cents yesterday, up 38 cents on a day. Implied volatility on that option up 22.5%. Volume 6,000 contracts yesterday on that line. The open interest increased 3,172 contracts, up 163% from the previous day. That's why I got the long buildup here. That compares to an average daily volume in total 358 contracts. Let's see what that's doing today in the morning. So nothing yet going on in that stock. CYTK up 3.7% yesterday. This is coming after the leap, Jan 15 of 2021, the 25 call. Again, close to at the money, a little bit above. That option closed $6.10, up $1.30 on a day. Implied volatility increased 15.3% to 113.4. Open interest increased 1,943 contracts, up 4,000%. Long buildup indicator here, significant compared to average daily volume of 590 contracts in total. let me slide down here. I noticed RXT that actually had three options that popped up here. Here stock closed 18.330, sorry, closed up 10.3% yesterday to $18.31. Here, let's take a look at this call over here. November 20th expiration, 22.5 call. That's upside call out of the money. That closed at $2.27, up $1.05 from the previous day. Implied volatility up 27.5% to 96.8. Open interest increased 1,129 contracts there. That's compared to 3,414 contracts in total. Long build up on that indicator. Let's see what that stock's doing. That's up 4.9% in a pre-market software infrastructure, and it has some news here.
Yeah, I think they're working on something with Amazon. They're a hosting facility. They host servers.
Oh, really? Okay.
In
all right,
rack.
so that's
Yeah.
all right. So that's a good one. Let me see here. SFIX. Which ones didn't I go?
Yeah, I think SFIX you didn't hit on.
Okay, SFIX. That's up 3.7% yesterday. August 21st. So this is the near-term option, right? So this doesn't have that many days left till expiration, expiring this week, right? This Friday, 24.5 call, open interest increase. So the 24.5 call that closed at 74 cents, up 36 cents on the day. So basically doubling. Implied volatility up 14.1% to 65.2. Open interest increase 4,470 contracts. That's up 824%. That's why I get the long buildup indicator. Let's just take a look at what that stock is doing in the pre-markets, if anything. So up 0.5% so far. Some kind of news on there. What is it called? Stitch Fix?
Stitch Fix. It's another one of those internet retailers. I doubt they make any money, but they're in a space it's pretty hot right now.
Right. So like e-commerce type of stocks. So take a look at that. XRX. That's up yesterday, up 1.8% on the day. Looks like they're coming after the October 16th 15 calls. So that one is in the money. That call right now, that's in the money. Stocks 1811. This one's in the money. That option was closed at 355 yesterday, up 35 cents. Implied volatility up 10.1% to 60.4. Open interest increased 2,737 contracts. Long build up there. Let's see what that's doing. So that's up 0.5% in the pre-market hours. Oh, that's Xerox. So Xerox holding. Okay. So that's on the open interest front in the from yesterday's close, how the open interest changed till today. There was another question with General Motors, right? People are asking about General Motors. All right, let me get to that. Let me know if there's other questions as we're going.
We had, and Ahmed's been on every day. He has a question. He came a little late, and IMBI, which was on the Premarket Movers, if you get a chance, he wanted to see what's happened previously with gaps in the morning. So.
Okay, so let me get to that. So let's take a look at General Motors. That was up 7.7% yesterday. Let's just take a look at the sentiment reading. So option order flow, that showed a sentiment reads that it's been bullish, and the bullishness has been increasing. Big money stock flow, the way that big block trades have been stepping up, have been bullish. Option fear gauge, that's moderate here. Let's take a look at, I'm just going to look really quickly at the trading stats here. So we see in the last 3 months, it's gained 32% versus SPY 18.5. 1 month, it's gained 13.5% versus SPY 5%. 2 week, 17% gain versus SPY 2.8%. So we see that it's been starting to outperform the market recently. Let me just take a look at let's take a look really quickly at the option trades breakdown, where the concentration of options have been trading. So here's the summary. report of those options trades. So total of 19.6 million in notional dollars of options have traded hands yesterday. 16.3 million were in the calls, 3.3 million in the puts. The largest percentage, if we group them by moneyness, the largest percentage were at the money calls. 47.1% of that, the volume was in the at the money calls. The second biggest concentration was out of the money calls. 24.7% of the volume was in the out of the money calls. That's how the breakdown in the options were. What did I want to? Let's take a look at the order sentiment here really quickly. So here we go. Yesterday, yes, $4.7 million in notional were detected as bullish call buying versus $674,000 in notional were detected as bearish put buying. So that's 88% versus 12%. That compares to a 30-day average of $890,000 worth of notional bullish call buying versus $342,000 worth of bearish put buying on a 30-day average. So that's how the order sentiment looked like yesterday in General Motors. And you said there was an interesting story they're thinking about, what, like splitting off.
Yeah, there's a lot of commentary in the marketplace about splitting out the electric car piece, which I guess has sales. I don't know if it's profitable, but has sales, and they're, better than, people have asked about Neo and Nikola, and there are other products that don't do any revenue yet that are,
that are like high flying now.
Yeah, market caps in the multiple billions. And so if GM was able to split this off, they say
unleash some
unlock
value.
some real value. Yeah.
Right. All right. We're almost at the open bell, but let me get to that. What was that stock, Will?
It's the second one in the gainers.
IMBI. This one. All right. Let's take a look really quickly at IMBI. That stock closed at $5.63. Internet retail company, trading at $7.16 in pre-market hours, up 27.2%, trading 1 million shares. That's compared to a float of 7 million. We see the high low in the pre-market, $6.63, $9.73. We see it pop somewhere up here that kind of like steadily looks like declined a little bit. Here, longest VWAP bar 706 to 727 on 196,000 shares. Let's take a look at its historically last 3 years. These are the biggest 12 gap moves. On average, gapped up 13.8%. We see a big one here, 64.4%, January 17, 2002. Some press release here. The average move from the open to the high, 7.3%. We see here, one time here, the opening was the high, drifted lower. The average move from the open to the low, negative 10.6%. By the end of the day, from the open to the close of the day, tended to drift lower more often than higher. 67% of the time it was lower from the opening price to the close of the day versus 33% higher, for an average loss of 2.3%. Here's how it looks coming out of there. Again, take a look at the new. It looks like it had some news today. Didn't even look at it, but there's some news over here, and you want to make sure. Was it earnings?
Yeah, I think it was earnings.
Let's take a look at the earnings then. Sorry, I didn't realize it had an earnings. So we don't have that much of an earnings history. So this might be a relatively new stock. So you see, we have a small sample here. I don't know if this is, just IPO'd in the last 2 years or something like that. Yeah. So not a lot of data, relatively new stock, but
for those who want a fundamental look at this stock, Jake gave a great breakdown on the chat.
Okay. Thank you, Jake. That's awesome.
All right, the bell's about to go off, D. Another great.
All right, guys. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a great trading day. Hopefully, we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Every morning during the week, people, we put this out. It's a great show. Awesome job, D. Remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel, everyone. Give us some thumbs up. Always appreciate it. Have a great trading day, everybody. Stay safe. Thanks, D.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.